Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather coming at you with another video. In this update, we're going to be talking about what looks like to be potential Hurricane Gamma coming up this weekend in the Gulf of Mexico. And also for next week, we could be looking at possibly another storm in the Gulf, Delta, coming up in the middle of next week. So before I do get started, if you do like weather-related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload about 5 videos a week to keep you updated. And I'm also working on my winter forecast 2020-2021 that'll be released this weekend. So definitely stay tuned for that. So let's delve into this video. What we're taking a look at is Gamma, which was created tropical depression already number 25 that will soon to be Gamma. It's probably going to be upgraded at the 10 p.m. advisory, and it's been kind of festering of that central dry area into the Central America along towards the Yucatan Peninsula. And as it's kind of getting its act together, it'll eventually move northwest and eventually get north of the Yucatan, which right now the National Hurricane Center has it going to a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm. I think it actually gets to a minimal hurricane by Monday in the Gulf of Mexico, and then it gets kind of stalled with that stalled front and those cold fronts that keeps on kind of pushing it down southward, and then gets possibly pushed off to the west, and then eventually into the Bay of Campeche, where it runs into a lot of shear and then kind of fizzles out over the Bay of Campeche. But it leaves a lot of rain extended on the right side in the Florida, and it's already dumped a lot of rain. But back behind that, we could potentially have another storm, which right now the National Hurricane Center has a 60% chance of it developing, and this would be Delta. And I'm thinking this one's going to be a little bit stronger than what Gamma might be as it goes into the Gulf of Mexico probably sometime next week, and it kind of really starts to get its act together. Conditions will be a lot more favorable in the Gulf by then, so we'll have to watch this system very closely. But if we take a look at the overall rainfall outlet that rained over Florida even before this storm was even named, the last 3 days it's rained. It maxes out around 11 inches, right around Jensen Beach, right on the east side of Florida. Almost had a foot of rain already, so it's dumping multi-inch rains along that stalled front and along that tropical gyra that's been in the Caribbean the last several days. This is even before it's even been named, and that's why I was telling you the impacts could be really great on the right side as these things get sheared on typically the smaller the storms, the more extended out the rainfall it can be. So I was like, don't get so concentrated in the exact center, because impacts can be well away from the center. And that's what we're actually seeing, what's going on in Florida right now, along with that stalled front. But if we take a look at the overall satellite picture, you kind of zero in on what's going on. Here is Hurricane Maria, and man, this thing's impressive today. This is already a major hurricane as it's spinning, luckily, out to sea, but this thing's actually probably going to get caught up in the jet stream, and eventually by October the 10th, possibly getting some welcome rain into California, helping out with the wildfires. So that's going to be a welcome relief. So I do think it collides with this system and brings some welcome rain into Washington and Oregon, especially northern California. And this actually could creep into central and a little bit of southern California. So it's definitely going to be some welcome rain in that part of the region. But if we kind of zero in to potential Gamma that will be probably named probably by tonight, this is right around the Yucatan Peninsula. And if we zero in here, this would be Delta probably sometime next week. And then if we actually take it a step further, this would probably be Epsilon. So this is definitely going into an active pattern again after we had a little bit of a lull, after we had basically 10 named storms in 18 days. So it's been a crazy year, and it's unfortunately there's a lot more to go, because we're looking at the JMA. This is the Japanese model, And if we kind of like zero into this area, you can see the blue pretty much depicts upward rising motion, and the yellow and the reds kind of predict sinking air. So if you kind of zero into the tropical Atlantic region, you can see where the upward rising motion pretty much takes place over the Caribbean into the Gulf of Mexico the next 3 to 9 days. This is from September 30th. So right around this time frame, up until the following week, there is an area right around where Gamma and Delta is going to be coming into fruition, going to be that upper rising motion that's going to be helping the storm kind of create itself and potentially go into a storm, and then eventually even a minimal hurricane. So, but if we expand the view and actually can extend it out to the following week, we still have a lot of sinking air that's coming back into play. But if you kind of zero in, here is where the Gulf of Mexico is and the tropical Atlantic, and it's pretty much clear. So this opens the gate for Delta to develop in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's what I'm looking at probably sometime next week as Delta gets into this region, into the western Gulf of Mexico, and then basically kind of just meanders it, and then eventually probably gets steered off to the northeast around the 10th or 11th time frame. So that's what I'm kind of looking at as far out in the future. But if we kind of take it a step back, here is the latest HWRF model. This is the latest hurricane model, and this actually shows by Sunday morning it has a minimal hurricane. A 990 low pressure is typically a minimal hurricane, and I do think it actually gets to that status before it kind of, like I said, runs into that stalled front, and it kind of gets pushed down further back to the south and eventually goes into the Bay of Campeche and just kind of fizzles itself out, and the remnants go into the eastern Pacific. But because as it goes down southward into the Bay of Campeche, it runs into a lot of deep layer shear that's going to be taking place in this part of the area. So that's why I think this is actually doesn't have a chance to become anything major out of this event, as it pushes southward and eventually runs into that shear and kind of just tears it apart, essentially. But if we expand the view and kind of take it a step further, by the 10th of the month of October, we've had that welcome cool down for a while, but unfortunately that doesn't last forever. We've got that ridge building into the central part of the country and eventually to the eastern, southeastern part of the U.S., and that's really going to heat up the atmosphere in a big way and actually help moisten up the mid-levels of the atmosphere to kind of help Delta by that time come to fruition in the Gulf of Mexico. And if you take a look at the latest GEFS ensemble members, it has a lot of members kind of concentrated over the central Gulf of Mexico, and even some of them take it down all the way to a 946. So we really have to kind of watch this thing as it gets right in the heart of the Gulf of Mexico, especially in October, this time of year with high pressure to the north. So it's a kind of a classic setup for something potentially could be a big storm that come to fruition out of the Gulf of Mexico by the middle of next week. And even if we take a look at the latest Canadian model, it does imply a storm potentially forming into the central Gulf, lifting off into the northeast, eventually going into the southeast region, impacting the southeast region as well as into Florida again. So you get hit with this area. So if you got plans in like Cancun, Belize, all those areas, it's going to be a wet time frame over the next 10 days. And especially if you got plans going into Florida as well. So you got a lot of rain coming over the next 10 days. So definitely be looking out for this forecast if you got a vacation planned in that area, because looking at the latest total precipitation of the Euro model, it kind of implies that. And even though we've had already a foot of rain almost in Jensen Beach in Florida, there's going to be a lot more to come over the next 10 days after you kind of get double whammied with Gamma and Delta. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you did find value in it, please like it. Please leave your comments below and definitely subscribe to my channel and catch the next video where I protect you before and after the storm.